Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut.
It's toothpaste?
That's because the middle is the most important part. At Graybar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Graybar does that.
It's time. It's time. Time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
What's up, faithful? You're listening to another episode of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Brian. He's Al. We made it through Wild Card Weekend. Our 49ers got to watch and laugh with the rest of us at the Cowboys and the Eagles as they got their shit rocked on national television. The NFC least has no more representatives in the playoff field. And let's be honest, Al, it wouldn't be the postseason without a 49ers-Packers matchup. How you feeling about the road ahead for our San Francisco 49ers?
You know, kind of the first thing that came to my mind when the dust settled and the weekend settled and we knew the winners and the losers, it was, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Because if you look at what the road is now paved for the Niners, I guess it didn't end up being that way, but you thought Philly and Dallas were going to be the competition. And I still thought Dallas was going to be the competition. Dallas has a ton of talent on that team. Just a ton of talent on that team. And for them to lay an egg like they did, I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit, but holy shit, if you're a Cowboys fan right now, I mean, it's like you're on the ledge. It couldn't have been any worse. Dak, and we've been saying this about Dak. You can have all the numbers he wants to in the regular season. He's got to show up big, and he never does in the playoffs. He played great against Tampa last year. Other than that, 2-5 now, disappointment after disappointment. So Dallas is out. Philly, you kind of wonder, are they going to turn the switch on? You know, are they just thinking to themselves, we know how to win in the postseason when we get there? I know we've been struggling, but yeah, dude, they looked like they didn't want to be there. Just looked like they didn't want to be playing the game. They couldn't tackle. They looked disjointed on offense. I mean, they didn't even look like they were trying to tackle. It was one of those games where, like, on a 3rd and 1, I'm like, Rachaad White's going to get 5 yards, and he did. Terrible. And then the only good game really of the whole weekend, Lions and Rams.
It was a great game.
You're glad that the Rams lost. At least I'm glad the Rams lost because the Rams did scare me. Division team playing well. They know each other. Stafford and Puka and Kupp and Kyron Williams, you never know. Like, they worried me a little bit. So now those 3 teams are out, and you have the youngest team in, I think, the NFL. It is Packers.
The NFL, yes.
The Bucks, who the Baker Mayfield led Bucks. I know there's talent there, but come on, 9-8. They just got their asses kicked 31 to whatever by the Saints 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And the Lions, who the struggles on defense, but you know, they got some mojo going on there. They can run the ball. They won 12 games for a reason, but not a team that don't think the Niners can't put 30 points up on. So now, if not now, when, Brian? Because the road is paved. It's just they are set up to just run the table here, get to the Super Bowl, and then, you know, we'll see with the AFC. But I can't believe how well it worked out for them. Knock on wood, something weird doesn't happen. But I was shocked the way that it all played out.
Yeah, you know, and honestly, the 49ers got the number 1 seed. So there was never like, you know, we want it to work out this way so that we can host another playoff game. You know, like none of that was in the cards. We knew that as long as the 49ers were in the playoffs, they were going to have home games. So there was that. But I mean, when you looked at that NFC field, you thought to yourself, it's the 49ers, and then it's the Cowboys and Lions probably, and then it's everybody else. And I think all of us fell victim to, you know, the Cowboys record, you know, what that offense did. And then you look at their schedule and what that offense did against really bad teams versus what they did against teams with a winning record. You know, they had 1 win against the Eagles, and they had a 1-point victory over the Lions where we all saw them lose that game and get jobbed, and the Lions get jobbed by the refs. So theoretically, I'm going to call that a loss. The only victory over a team with a winning record or a playoff team that Cowboys team had was the one game that they beat the Eagles late in the season after the Eagles got just absolutely demolished by the 49ers and went 1-5 the rest of the way. In fact, I tweeted out that there's a phenomenon in medicine called terminal lucidity, which is something that a term that they use for people with Alzheimer's or dementia. As they get nearer to death, they become more lucid, like they get memories back and things like that. And it's often this, this sense of excitement for the loved ones. And then that terminal lucidity happens, could be hours, could be days, could be up to a week before an eventual passing. And I tweeted out that was the Eagles' victory over the Giants, was their terminal lucidity moment, because from the moment that they got beat by the 49ers, it just seemed like they were on death's door and it was just a matter of time. And it just felt like both of those teams were frauds. And it became evident by the fact that the Cowboys just got run out of their own stadium by a 7th seeded Packers team who needed help to get into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then if the Bucs receivers could catch, that game would have been over in the first half. So neither one of those teams were ready for playoff football. And it certainly seems like, if we're being honest, the 4 best teams in the NFC are probably the ones remaining, which is kind of an indictment on the NFC because it's the 49ers, the Lions, the Bucs, and the Packers. The Bucs and the Packers were 9-8, and the Lions were, were they 11-6 or 12-5? I can't remember, but
12-5.
12-5, just like the 49ers. But again, if the 49ers had to play the Rams in week 18, I think they probably would have won that game. Then we would have been, a record would have been 13-4. So like you said, if not now, when? It is perfectly set up. And while you cannot take any of these teams lightly, each of the 3 remaining teams has a fatal flaw that the 49ers don't have. The 49ers are the most balanced team remaining in the NFC field. They've got a top 10 defense. They've got a top 5 offense. And those other 3 teams, while they might, like the Packers and the Lions are really good on offense, they've got really suspect defenses. And then the Bucs have a pretty decent defense, but they've got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. And 49ers have already played the Bucs, and it really wasn't a competitive game. They didn't put up over 30, but also the game was in hand for the majority of the game. So yeah, I mean, outside of just absolute Philadelphia level meltdowns, I just don't see where this path doesn't lead to the 49ers being in Vegas as the NFC representative.
Well, if it doesn't happen, it's a huge disappointment. It was always going to be a disappointment. But I feel like as much as Dallas has been frauds, as much as the Niners have handled them, if you lose to a team with that much talent, if maybe you just get outscored or something fluky happens, whatever, not that you could live with it, because again, this is kind of a make or break season, but you could justify it, I guess. Yeah. Now it's kind of like, can't really justify any of these losses if they do end up losing. So Green Bay was 4-6 at one point. I think Tampa was 3-6 at one point. And they're not on the level of the 49ers, those 2 teams at all to me. So yeah, is Tampa an upstart, or I'm sorry, is Green Bay an upstart team right now? Absolutely. But as we look into the game, I'll tell you some reasons why I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with some of the Green Bay stuff. They look great. But one of the things, how many teams have we seen look great in a wild card round and then go in the divisional round and, all of a sudden, you run into a buzzsaw or you just kind of come back to earth? Be very careful. Bill Simmons has it's called a playoff manifesto he does. And one of the things is beware that wild card team that wins and looks great going into the next round. Yeah. Green Bay does not scare me a ton. Do I think they could score? Yeah. But overall, and we'll get into why. Tampa Bay, for all the reasons you said, they were feisty when they played the Niners. Yeah. But again, they just have a ceiling to me that I don't think they can go in and really put up, oh my God, this team scored 40 and they were unstoppable. I don't think that's going to happen on San Francisco. Detroit, do I think Detroit can come in and put up a lot of points? Yep, I do. But 2 things there that I'm not worried about is one, on the road, Jared Goff. Not worried about that. And I'm not worried about their defense whatsoever. I mean, not even a little bit. I think the Niners would they may put up 40 on their defense. And Goff, as good as Goff played in that game Saturday night, he played terrific. He did have the one Jared Goff moment where he kind of tried to, lateral the ball backwards.
Yeah, that was
how he tried to do.
Yeah.
That he got away with. But other than that, he played really well. And I think he'll play really well at home this week too. But if he has to go to San Francisco on the road in the NFC Championship, I think the Niners are going to eat him alive.
Yeah, and the one thing about the Lions that I'm not going to say concerns me on the defensive side, but they are the number one run defense in the NFL. Like they came into this season, they talked about it on the broadcast of that Rams or Lions game, but that they came into this season and said, like, they were on defense, they were awful last year, and so it was about like taking strides, right? And so they came into this season with a commitment, like, we're going to be good against the run. Like, we might be not great in any other area of the defense, but we're going to be good at stopping the run. And they have been. And so, that does concern me a little bit, but that secondary is eminently gettable. And I just feel like there's not a lot to be scared of any of the three teams remaining. Can any of those three teams beat the 49ers? Absolutely. This is the NFL. Any given Sunday, 100%. Brock Purdy could go out and have a similar performance that he did against the Ravens. I don't anticipate that, but that could definitely happen. I'm not saying that would happen because the stage was too big, but a lot of those, not a lot, but three of those were fluky interceptions, right? Like batted down at the, hit at the line of scrimmage, lands in someone's arms, tipped again, lands in someone's arms, right? Like that kind of stuff isn't typical. That's not going to happen all the time. You still got to give credit to the Ravens defense. They were in position to make those plays. Like, I'm not taking anything away from them, but it wasn't a 4 interception performance. Like, he just threw it to 4 Ravens. And it was like, what the hell are you doing? So again, any given Sunday, you've got to respect any team that has made it into the playoffs. But as I said on Twitter, prior to the playoffs even starting, does anybody in the NFC, as a 49er fan, does anybody in the NFC scare you? And I used that GIF from Wolf of Wall Street with Leo DiCaprio. And it was just absolutely fucking not. Like, no one does. And right. that's not being a homer. That's not being, that is recognizing that this team genuinely is a tier above anybody else in the NFC. And the only team through the regular season that could lay claim to that as well is in the AFC, and that's the Ravens. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like this team is on a collision course with Vegas, and really, I think the only team that can stop them is themselves.
Yeah, and defensively, I think you said for what you said earlier about the Niners and like what teams are better. No teams agree; they're totally better than other team. But what defense scares you in the NFC? None.
Yeah, none.
There's not a single defense.
Yeah,
that scares you in the NFC. So for them, it's just if they play their game, if they execute, I'm not trying to get overconfident here, Brian. I'm not.
I get it. I get it because I don't want to be.
49ers are the 49ers.
Yeah.
Are they not? I don't think they'll win by less than 20. And Brian Baldinger was on, I don't know what he was on today, but he said this. It's about the 49ers and how they execute. I don't care what the Packers do. The Packers came to town before and the Niners ran the ball right down their throats a couple of years ago. It's a lot of the same type of people. Agree with that 100%. Niners play the Niners games. They will beat Packers by 20. They'll beat Tampa by 20, and they will beat Detroit by 10 plus. It's just that simple. And that's not being a homer. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a homer. I say what I think. I'm not afraid to knock the team. I'm not afraid to say when I'm nervous. Right now, I'm as confident as I've ever been. And if they don't make the Super Bowl, it is just will be a gut punch. They should cakewalk to the Super Bowl. Cakewalk to the Super Bowl.
Yes. And, over on the AFC side, there are 3 teams that are better than any. There are 3 teams that are better than any team left in the NFC, and a 4th team that you could argue could be better, and that's the Texans, right? But you've still got the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills. And I'm excited for that Bills-Chiefs game. I'm actually excited for that Ravens Texans game. I'm very excited to see Bobby Slowick's game plan against the Ravens, because I feel like he had stuff to learn from what Shanahan did against the Ravens, basically like what not to do. Because that, again, I still don't understand Shanahan's game plan against the Ravens. It won't ever make sense to me.
Right.
No, despite what anybody trying to explain it to me, just doesn't make sense. The lack of running, all of that. The problem for the Texans is their run game sucks out loud. And so they are going to have to throw, which, definitely plays into the hands of that Ravens defense. But I'm excited to see CJ Stroud in that environment. I'm excited to see, what he has in terms of moxie going against, the best defense in the NFL, a historically good defense, even better than the Browns, which, by the way, the Browns, I thought the Browns would go in and beat the Texans. I genuinely did. And then I thought, hey, maybe the Browns could go in and beat the Ravens. What I failed to realize, this is wild to me. The Browns as a defense at home gave up an average of 13.8 points per game, which is first in the NFL. On the road, the Browns gave up 30.7 points per game, which was literally worst in the NFL. They were two different defenses when they played at home versus on the road. And a lot of that had to do, I think, with that defensive line was all about get off. And when you play at home, you got the noise where the opposing quarterback is going off, a movement, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And you can key on that a lot easier than you can on the road when the quarterback doesn't have to go to a silent count and you're having to listen and worry about hard counts and things like that. And I think that had a lot to do with it. But, the Texans absolutely just dismantled that Browns defense, which I think is, can bode well for them against the Ravens. I think they're going to give the Ravens a game. I don't know that they'll win that game, but I definitely think I don't think it's going to be a blowout. And because honestly, I was thinking about this today. I don't think the Ravens offense is as impressive as it felt like it was against the 49ers. They were the beneficiary of a lot of short fields because of turnovers, and they moved the ball on the 49ers, but it wasn't where it was like they moved it at will, or, the 49ers threw everything they could at them and they just couldn't get stops. Like, it wasn't that. It was a fluky game again, where the 49ers gave the ball away, which is not common for them under Kyle Shanahan, but also this season they took care of the ball really, really well. So that was kind of an aberration. But I just that offense, I'm not all that impressed by it. Right? If you can contain Lamar Jackson, you have a shot. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't beat you from the pocket. He absolutely can. But it's those off schedule plays. It's when he breaks the pocket and then his receivers can just do a scramble drill that you get in trouble, because you just can't cover for that long. So, I think D'Amico is going to have a great game plan. Whether he has the horses to pull it off, that's to be seen. But I definitely expect D'Amico to have a good game plan going into that against the Ravens. And I'm excited for that game. The two best games of divisional round weekend are going to be the AFC games, right? The Texans and Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bills.
Bobby Slowick should get head coach consideration. He's done.
He is already. He's the Seahawks have already asked to interview him, and I believe the Titans have asked, and the Panthers have asked, and I think there's one more team that's already asked to interview him. So
yeah,
I don't even think
he might.
I think he's going to get one.
Yeah,
I just think he's going to get one.
The job that he's done, and you've seen what D'Amico Ryans has done with this team. It's been unbelievable. Yeah. And we knew with the Niners that guy was special. I mean, you just knew it. It was just a matter of time again before he was going to be a head coach. And that is a fun team. It's a fun team to root for. There, it's got some Niner roots there with D'Amico and Slowick and those guys. As far as Lamar, he's got his own hill to climb. I need to see it. He's another one like Dak. I need to see it. I need to see you go out in January, and I need to see you win that big playoff game. I need to see you kind of get on a run here. As far as Brock Purdy, people say that's a question mark too. Absolutely. But
he's won 2 games in the playoffs.
He's won 2 games.
Yeah.
He's won 2 playoff games. Right?
Yeah.
He's got as many as Dak and more than Lamar. After 2 games. So yeah, he's got stuff to prove this year, because last year it was house's money, right? This year it's not. But yeah, Lamar's got his own hill to climb there. And as far as the other game, look, I'm sick of Kansas City. I really want to see them lose. And we know the Bills are my mistress. The Bills are my Gumar. The 49ers are Carmela Soprano, and the Bills are one of Tony's Gloria or whoever, if you guys watch Sopranos. But no, I don't love the Bills that much. They're just like a team I root for.
Sure.
It's like a family team type or whatever. So
yeah.
Really want to see them upset. Well, no, I think they're favored somehow. I don't see how. If you watch the Bills play the
Chiefs are favored in that game?
No, the Bills are favored.
Oh, yeah. I think the Bills should be favored.
I don't. If you've watched the Bills play, it's been really ugly. Like, they try to give games away. They try to screw it up. So I thought Kansas City would be favored by 2.5, and the Bills are favored by 2.5 last I saw.
Patrick Mahomes has never played a playoff game away from Arrowhead.
On the road, yeah. The Bills just got to prove a lot to me that they can. I don't know. I'm still, their defense is decimated by injuries. The other 49er roots that we saw are Mike McDaniel, and I thought he had a really rough game.
Yeah.
I didn't understand some of his game plan. I didn't against the previous week against the Bills. He stopped running the ball, and I thought the difference in that game, Brian, I think the score was 13-7, I think, but they had a ball inside Chiefs territory. They had a 3rd down and a 4th down play, and they were finally running the ball. They were really running the ball well and starting to get momentum. It's 3rd and 2, throws the ball. 4th and 2, throws the ball. They end up turning the ball over on downs, and the game was over from there. And I didn't love some of his game plan. I didn't love some of his calls. And he's, again, the defense is decimated by injuries. So you can't really knock them there. But in terms of Tua's play, and in terms of, again, at some point now, McDaniel, he's another one now. Now he's got his hill to climb. He's got to get to the playoffs and win a game. So, listen, McDaniel's not going anywhere. He's definitely going to get another chance next year, whether that's with Tua or someone else. But, he's another person, you're rooting for is with the Niners ties, but he's got his own hill to climb.
I think Mike McDaniel sometimes suffers from the same thing that Kyle Shanahan suffers from, in that he outthinks himself. And so, again, you go 3rd and 2, and you just think to yourself, well, they're going to gear up to stop the run, so I'm going to pass. Well, the problem is your quarterback hasn't shown that he can complete very many passes this game.
It was negative 27 out.
Right. Exactly. But also you look at the Chiefs, and they threw the ball all over the field. So it is doable. But when you're a team from South Beach, like, you're just not prepared to play in a game like that. And I think the problem for that team is always going to be, if you have to go on the road in the postseason and it's going to be inclement weather, they're always going to be at a disadvantage, just because they're not used to playing in that, which is why they would have benefited greatly from winning that damn Buffalo game, so they could have hosted a playoff game instead of going on the road. So, I think that's part of the problem. I also just think, at this point, I genuinely don't think that Tua is it. And I think Tua is Mike McDaniel's Jimmy G or Jared Goff, right? Where you realize, like, you've squeezed every ounce of juice out of that orange, and there's really nothing more that you can get out of him. Now, it's a hell of a season, but the season is just to prepare you for the postseason. And this is now 2 years in. Now, Tua didn't play in the postseason last year. I understand that he was injured, but it just feels like they've got one more season. They've got him on his 5th year option, but is Tua going to play on his 5th year option without an extension? I have no idea. Are you willing to extend Tua? Are you willing to pay Tua what, you would likely need to pay him? I wouldn't be, but you're also kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if he sits out, you can't really drop 40 on Kirk if that's what you want. I think Kirk would be amazing down there. I know he's coming off that Achilles, but I think Kirk Cousins would be Mike McDaniel's Matthew Stafford, and I think it would take that offense to another level. No pun intended, Tua. But it just feels like they're at a really, really difficult kind of crossroads, if you will. And I don't envy that decision whatsoever. But Yeah, it was a bummer. I would have loved to see them take Kansas City out. But Kansas City is there. This is old hat to them, and it's
Yep.
crazy to me because I saw this today and I didn't realize it. If the 49ers win on Saturday, that means they'll make it to 3 straight NFC championship games and 4 of the last 5. That's wild. That is a hell of a run for Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers team. And it's still viewed as, yeah, but he can't win the big one, right? And that's what the bugaboo is. But we've talked often on the show about, like, what do you expect out of a season? We talked about it, a few shows back. Like, if you can't take a step back from the season, even if they don't win the Super Bowl, and go, that was a fun season, that's the amount of pressure that you're putting on yourself as a fan for this team to win the Super Bowl. It's like, if they don't win the Super Bowl, you can't enjoy it. This is a team where every year you go, listen, they're probably going to make the NFC Championship game because they've done it. Again, if they do it this year, they'll be 4 of the past 5 years. Like, that's a hell of a sustained run of success. And the Chiefs are on, a very similar path. The only difference is they've won 2 of those Lombardis and the 49ers haven't yet. But like we said earlier, the path is there for them. But the first step is to get through this Green Bay squad.
Yeah, and looking at this game, so the thing the Niners are going to do that Dallas couldn't do, and that the Eagles couldn't do, and that frankly a lot of teams can't do. They're going to shut down the middle of the field. Do you know why they're going to shut down the middle of the field? Because they have absolute studs at linebacker that are able to take that part of the game away. So I think what's interesting about, Brian and I talked last show, I don't know if it was last show or a couple shows ago, but whatever it was, that the Niners they build the team differently than some other teams do, in that they value and pay their running back. They value and pay their kicker. They value and pay a fullback. They value and pay off-ball linebackers, which a lot of teams don't do. And guess what? It's going to be a game changer. We've seen it. It hurt the Eagles. It hurt the Cowboys. It's hurt a lot of teams. They don't have Fred Warner. They don't have Dre Greenlaw. It's going to take that part of the game away, and I think that's going to be huge. And when you could take something away, teams have to adjust, and they're just so loaded on defense, the Niners. So where do you go, and where am I worried about this game? I'm not worried about Green Bay's defense at all. We'll talk about that.
No.
What would worry you is that Jordan Love is red hot right now.
Yep.
So if you think the Niners are going to lose this game, they're probably not going to lose it 13-10. It would be a 31-27, a shootout type situation, right, you would think. And I saw this, I'm not sure who put it up, but I did see the stat on Twitter. So Brock Purdy's last 10 games, 70.5% completion, 288 yards per game, 21 TDs, 10 picks, and a QB rating just under 114. Phenomenal. Jordan Love in that same time.
Yeah.
68.5% completion, 271 yards a game, 23 TDs, only 3 picks, and a 111.3 QB rating. He looked fearless against the Cowboys. He threw some absolute dimes. There were a lot of wide open people too, but he threw some really good throws. So that's the thing with Love. But this offense, Brian, is so young. So this is Jordan Love's first taste of it all. And again, he hasn't gone up against the defense like the Niners here, right? And then you look at the guys he's throwing to. He's got some exciting young players. They're going to be good for a long time. Jaden Reed's a rookie. Wicks is a rookie. Christian Watson's in his second year. Luke Musgrave is a rookie. Aaron Jones is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
That's a worry if the Niners, can't stop the run. But this to me is a Green Bay team that, again, the way they looked last week, people are going to be like, oh man, look out for them. But I think reality is going to set in real quick this week. And that's not to say they're going to get dog walked. I don't know if that's going to happen. No. But I can see them sticking around. But at the end, it should be a game the Niners win comfortably, regardless of how good that offense can be at times.
Well, and you think about Kyle Shanahan's record against former coaches of his, right? Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel. Hasn't played Saleh yet. Hasn't played D'Amico yet. But you look at it and you're like, Kyle kind of owns those guys. And I think part of it is, he understands. That's the thing, is he can help his defense prep because he understands what their offense is trying to do because they're running his offense. Now, LaFleur, I think, does a little bit more in terms of a little bit more like Sean McVay than like McDaniel, right? Like Shanahan and McDaniel and Slowick, they run very similar schemes. Although Slowick, because they can't run, has a more robust passing attack, but also because he has a really, really good quarterback. CJ Stroud is fantastic. I love that guy. I tweeted out on Saturday. To me, CJ Stroud is like if you had Brock Purdy, like if you just took all of the essence of who Brock Purdy is, what he's good at, all of it, work ethic, all of it, and just put that in Trey Lance's body. That's what CJ Stroud is. And it feels like a pretty solid, I guess metaphor. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Because the thing about CJ Stroud is one of the things you notice is no moment is too big for him. And that's, again, one of the qualities that I love most about Brock. But he just is very, very successful against those guys. I think if I'm not mistaken, LaFleur's only beaten him once, and that was when he had Rodgers, and that was
that was a COVID year, right?
That was a COVID year, regular season game. And then, McVay got him this past, week 18, and then obviously in the championship game. But, you brought up kind of what scares you about Green Bay. And it is the offense, because the defense has made guys like Tommy DeVito look like a real NFL quarterback. And they made Baker Mayfield look like an absolute superstar. And like you look at, and they've given up 200 yards on the ground to, I think, 5 different teams this season. Like, this defense is not good. They're not good. And the fact that they did what they did against Dallas was a little surprising, but then also, all of a sudden you're like, hey, this game, which was an absolute like blowout, has gotten a lot closer towards the end of this game. It got to two scores with like less than 5 minutes left. And I was like, is Joe Barry gonna Joe Barry this game? Is he gonna let this game get away from them?
They gave up 510 yards. I mean,
right. And I mean, granted, when you're playing defense and you're up by multiple scores, you're going to play soft. You're going to allow things to happen because you don't have the pressure. But yeah, this defense doesn't scare me at all. Jordan Love is on a heater, and that a little bit reminds me of, the 2021 season where they lost to the Rams in the NFC Championship game because Matt Stafford was on a heater in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But you look at that game as well, and Matt Stafford was good, but that 49ers defense pretty much held him in check. It was the offense's lack of ability to execute that ended up costing them that game in the end. And I don't foresee anything like that happening against this Green Bay team. That Rams defense was a lot better than this Green Bay defense is. So there's just not a lot of concern for me, even if it gets to be a shootout, even if that Packers offense just starts to pour it on. That Packers defense isn't going to stop this 49ers offense. There's no way. There's no way that they will. And so, a shootout can get wonky a little bit, but I don't, we may go into halftime of this game and it may be a 1-score game, but then they're going to come out of halftime, and that's when you're going to see them kind of pull away. And that's my expectation.
And we've seen a lot of Niners games like that, where it's like 17-10 at the half, and you're like, oh, why are they letting them hang around? And then
it's 34-13.
Right. They end up winning. And that's what's funny about this defense too. Like, I feel like with the Niners defense, we're always like, oh, they don't look good. They're not playing well. It just doesn't look like the Niners defense. And then you look up and they give up 16 points.
Right.
Because there's so much talent on the team. They have guys in the playoffs who absolutely step up too. Eric Armstead has 7 sacks in 9 career playoff games. 6 sacks in his last 5 playoff games. And then Nick Bosa, who really was not Nick Bosa in the playoffs last year, whether he kind of ran out of gas or was hurt or whatever. I don't think he had a sack in 3 games in the playoffs last year. And he still has 8 sacks and 9 tackles for loss in 9 career playoff games. That's how dominant he's been in the playoffs since his time with the 49ers. So I feel like they're going to step up. Javon Hargrave has 3 sacks and then playoffs, 5 tackles for loss. These are guys who played really well. Again, I think the linebackers make a difference. I really do. I'm watching the games this weekend and being like, their linebackers suck. Their
Mhm.
linebackers suck.
Mhm.
Their linebackers suck.
Yeah.
The Niners linebackers don't. I think it's a
Don't.
big deal. I do.
Yeah.
I think this time of year, I think you take away the middle of the field, it's a huge deal. So when the Ravens can do it too, right? They're the two
Yep.
teams, and the Chiefs defense looks pretty damn good right now too, with Nick Bolton back there and
Yeah.
everything else. But they're the two teams that I think can change the way that you play on defense. They're that good on defense, and that's why I think those are the two teams that are going to end up in the Super Bowl. But the Packers team, again, I get why people would be nervous, but
Sure.
I think right now it's just more recency bias, where you just saw them go into Dallas and absolutely just destroy a really talented Cowboys team, just embarrass them. I just think it was like one of those weeks for Dallas. I think Dallas is built to choke. Green Bay, yes, a lot of talent offensively, but they barely got by the Bears again 2 weeks ago to get in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I feel like it was just they had a really good day, and I feel like Green Bay, you're walking into a buzzsaw. Niners know. They know. They've been talking about since offseason, since preseason. The team knows they need to get it done. The path is there. I think they're going to come out. I think they're going to be on a mission.
Well, and I mean, look at what Kyle Shanahan did to that Cowboys defense in week 5, right? 42-10. You don't think Matt LaFleur watched that tape and saw some things that he could probably exploit, right? Like that's the reality. And that's where we are in the season, right? It's all about specific game plans, matchups to exploit, all of that. And LaFleur runs an offense that can exploit the Cowboys' weaknesses. Like you said, the linebackers, the middle of the field. Shockingly, the Cowboys were unable to get any pressure whatsoever, which, again, that their defense is predicated on getting that pressure. And if they're not, they can get exposed. But I think that Green Bay result was more about the Cowboys than it was about the Packers. I don't want to take anything away from what the Packers did. Their offense was incredible, but I think it was more a statement on who the Cowboys are or aren't, if we're being perfectly honest, than it was who the Packers are. And, that kind of victory, right? Of being a 7 seed going in and just absolutely dismantling the 2 seed on their field. I think this team is going to be riding high a little bit, and they're young, and that's to be expected. I don't think they're going to take the 49ers lightly, but I also think that they probably are going to be a little more confident than they probably should be. And it'll be interesting to see, how they come out, what they look like on offense versus the San Francisco defense. And then what that Packers defense, are they able to stop the run? I don't think they are. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have 150 plus yards on the ground. I really do. They can't stop the run for teams that are good at running the ball. You look at, like I said, they gave up, I believe, five different times this season. They gave up over 200 yards to a team on the ground. That just doesn't get fixed overnight. It wasn't because they were missing guys or anything like that. They just aren't a good run defending team. And that is one of the weaknesses of Joe Barry's defense, which is the same type of defense that, what's his face, Staley, right? He kind of comes from, he was Staley's linebackers coach in LA before Staley went, or with the Rams before Staley went to the Chargers, and then the Packers hired Joe Barry. So, like I said, his defense has made guys like Tommy DeVito look good. So in the end, regardless of how good that Packers offense is, there's just not enough on the defensive side to reliably stop this 49ers offense. And that's really where the game comes down to me is they're just not going to be able to stop this 49ers offense. And, I have a feeling that we're looking at 34 points or more for this 49ers offense against that Packers defense. And if they can force Jordan Love into some mistakes and some turnovers, it could get ugly. I don't think it's going to be ugly, but it definitely could. And the other thing that we have to look at is weather forecast. It does look at currently, as we're recording on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, it is forecasted to rain, which means that, again, we could see a bit of a sloppy field. I think that bodes well for the 49ers because they, again, can lean on the run with Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason and really just punish this Packers offense. And that's the other thing is if you're afraid of somebody's offense, what's the best way to defend it? Eat up that clock, run the ball, run hard, eat up time of possession. Don't give them, more than a handful of opportunities, and you should be good.
If they get down 10-0, are you worried? Do you think
the 49ers?
The 49ers, yeah.
No, I'm not worried.
That's maybe the one. I don't know that would worry me. It's just one of the things they have to prove, right?
Yeah.
That would be a situation where I'm like, all right, now you got to prove you can come back because they have had some trouble coming back. Just whatever happens. Packers score on their opening drive, you fumble, or
yeah.
Packers score on the opening drive, it's 3 and out, they get a field goal, and all of a sudden, whoa, it's 10-0. That would be one of the spots where I'm like, all right, can this team come back? The other spot still is Moody. If it is a close game, I'm a little bit worried there. But I guess those are the only real two things with the Niners where there's any sort of worry for me at all. If it's a close game, or just even a game where you're moving the ball and you don't score touchdowns and you miss a couple field goals, then you're letting the team hang around. Or if they get behind, do things start to snowball a little bit? Those would be my two worries. But I think there's so much. I know the Lions are a good team, but I think the Lions or the 49ers are better enough than the rest of the teams that there's too much talent there. There's too much talent for them not to be playing.
And I think there's too much experience to be worried about something like that as well. Like I would be far more concerned as a fan of the Packers and their youth. If the Packers go down 10-0, I think there's a distinct chance that they start to turtle a little bit. They're so young. They have no experience in the playoffs outside of this, this game against Dallas, which wasn't a typical playoff game and wasn't very difficult for them. There wasn't stress. There wasn't that kind of thing. I think if the Packers get down 10-0, 13-0, I think you start to see a little bit of puckering on their end. But I think this 49ers team is too veteran laden, too experienced, too focused on the prize to let something like 2 scores, get them out of their game. So no, I'm not concerned about that. Now, if you're talking about the Super Bowl and you're facing a team like the Ravens or the Chiefs or the Bills and they go down 10-0, I think that's a different story. But against a Packers defense that is bound to let them back in the game, no, I wouldn't be terribly worried.
Yeah, I agree. Just too much talent. And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing the way this team is going to come out because they've been waiting for this moment. They've been playing for this moment. They knew this moment was coming. They're all focused on this. It's just, again, it feels like 1994 to me in that.
I think they're going to come out and punch them in the mouth. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do.
And again, if you know me, I always worry about shit. I always find things to worry about. I think the Niners are going to win the next 2 games, regardless of who they play the next championship game, fairly easily. And then the Super Bowl, we'll see when we get to the Super Bowl. But I feel like the rest of the playoffs are going to be a cakewalk for them. And it just feels like it feels like a destiny year to me for them to get to the Super Bowl. And then again, we'll see what happens. But it just feels like it's a foregone conclusion. I don't know. Everything just getting the vibe. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm just getting that vibe. Like it's just everything's coming up Niners. It's just kind of their year. You know what I mean?
And for somebody, and for somebody that very much, will call out bullshit when you see it. For Al to have vibes right now, for Al to feel those vibes, like that's a big deal.
I never feel positive about
deal.
Anything. Nothing. Like not a single thing.
I love it.
So for me to feel good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's as big a deal as any.
Yeah.
If we're being perfectly honest.
If Al Sacco is this confident, maybe we should have good vibes here, but I don't know. Well, I think Brian, I think it's going to be, I'm going to say 35, 38 points for the Niners. Packers may hit 20, but I feel like it's going to be a pretty easy win.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, I think they're going to go into the half up 1, maybe 2 scores. Let's say like 17-10 into the half. And I think this game ends like 38-23, something along those lines where, the Packers score late because the 49ers are playing soft coverage and all of that because they're up by, 3 or 4 scores. That and honestly, no disrespect to the Packers, none whatsoever. I am very impressed by Jordan Love. I think it's unfair that it appears that they're going to go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love without any bullshit in between, which is just unheard of in terms of, I mean, the only other thing you could think of is what the Steelers have done with head coaches, where they've had 3 head coaches since we landed on the moon or some kind of crazy stat like that. But, but I just think that this 49ers team is, again, just a tier above anybody in the NFC. And that offense in Green Bay is impressive, and they've made leaps and bounds, and they're going to be really, really good again next year. And if they can get some pieces on defense, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I just think that they are, let's say, a year early right now. But they are peaking at the right time, but I just don't think that their peak is still anywhere near what the 49ers peak can be. And I just think that that's why this game ends up. So like I said, I'm going to go 38-23 49ers. And the reason that we're giving score predictions is because I am leaving on Thursday morning for Vegas. My youngest is going there for the Jams national cheer competition in Vegas. So she'll be cheering on Friday, which means Saturday I don't have to worry. I will be able to watch the game, but I don't get to watch it from home. I will be watching it in Vegas. I'm not sure where. So later this week, we're not sure what will happen. Either Al's going to go solo, or we may find an old friend or a fun guest, or whatever the case may be. Was awesome to talk to Kiana last episode. And then we'll be back. I get back Sunday, so I'll coordinate with Al. Maybe we'll record on Sunday.
Who knows?
We react. Yeah, you never know, right? Everything is fluid. It's the postseason. We got to be flexible. But
I do have to ask.
But I'm excited.
Got to ask you before we get out of here, though. Who are you taking in Detroit and Tampa?
I'm taking Detroit. Me too. I just think that. I think that game is probably going to be close, like that Rams game was, because I think Todd Bowles is a good defensive coordinator, and Jared Goff is want to give away the ball a little bit. He was just, I think, lucky against the Rams, but I think ultimately the Lions have enough on offense to pull that one out. But again, I don't think either one of those teams again would scare me coming to Santa Clara for the championship game. I really want the Lions to win because I'm just riding high on those vibes for that fan base. Like, that is so cool. Like, I was genuinely happy for the Lions fans when they won that game, and happy for Jared Goff. And yeah, it was awesome. I loved it because it's been a nightmare for them for so long, and I would love for that team to get into the NFC Championship game. I just am bummed that it will likely be against my squad, and I think my squad will take care of business, but love what's happening for the Lions. Hope that it continues. They are going to lose their offensive coordinator, so that could be, they could take a step back next year. You never know. They're going to have to pay Jared Goff. That seems, it seems like the Bucks and the Lions are in the same spot. They got to pay a quarterback that is maybe a shade above average, but not probably at the level that you're going to have to pay them. But how do you not pay Jared Goff? How do you not pay Baker Mayfield? They made it to the divisional round.
They have Hendon Hooker lurking, though.
Was it 27-year-old Hendon Hooker? How old is that guy?
Is that how old he is?
I think he was 25 when he was in the draft. So
kind of wonder about him, though, if he comes out next year and they're like, oh, this guy looks good. But yeah, they're a fun team. And I'll tell you what, man, like, again, if it wasn't the Niners that they would be going against, I'd want them to get the Super Bowl. I don't know how you can't root for Dan Campbell and what's going on there. It's a lot of fun. But hopefully they win this week, and the Niners win this week, and then Detroit gets curb stomped in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, he just turned 26. Hendon Hooker just turned 26.
Holy shit, he's that old?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam Hartman for Notre Dame is like 45 years old.
Yeah, it's like Brandon Weeden.
And because the transfer portal now and everything else, these guys play like forever.
And COVID.
COVID too, yeah.
I mean, so like Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is 24. Michael Penix is 24. Like they're old right now.
Yeah. Isn't that unbelievable? All these dudes are older than Brock Purdy.
Yep. Yeah.
Madness.
Hey,
all right,
also,
we're out of here.
Hold on, but before we leave, Dallas, let Trey start. It's the Trey Lance era in Dallas. Here we go.
Bill Belichick.
Oh man. Whew.
I think
we got to talk
Bill.
talk about coaches when we get the opportunity, because it's wild out there right now. But
long off seasons. We'll be out of time.
But hey,
all right,
we're out of here. Go Niners. Enjoy
the game.
Enjoy it. I will from Vegas. Al will from his basement, drinking beers, having fun. And we will talk to you guys soon. Later.
Niners on 3. 1, 2, 3.
.2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.